Everyone, we want to talk a little bit today about the difference between AI literacy and AI governance. A lot has kind of fallen under that AI literacy bubble, and so we wanted to kind of parse those out a little bit. There are a lot of really great organizations out there doing amazing work on AI literacy, and their shared definitions include these things, right? That it's really about individual capability AI literacy. Common elements of those definitions are things like understanding how AI works and what the difference between AI and generative AI is, having a real understanding of the ethical use and implications and awareness of how AI will impact society. And then really kind of talking through how do we use AI to augment our human capacity versus replace it. So those are kind of all things that we think about when we think about AI literacy. And we're going to go through a couple different scenarios in a second to pull that out. But we see AI governance as really about systems capacity and capability. So really thinking through what are the shared principles that are important to our organization, what are the policies and processes that guide our practice, and how do those things help us make coordinated decisions together. So Clara, let's go through a couple of scenarios just to kind of talk through what that really looks like in practice.
Yep.
So we've got this first one about kind of common in schools, right? I've got two different tools kind of being advocated for by different departments. People are seeing some results from those tools, but there are some different policy and data privacy requirements that are part of each of those tools, and the district can really only afford to have one platform. So in that such scenario, what's the AI literacy we need, and what's the AI governance we need to sort of work our way through that scenario? So in terms of AI governance or AI literacy, we need to really understand like what are the capabilities. So as we pilot different tools and we bring different tools in for consideration, we need to understand what are the capabilities and limitations of the AI component of that tool. We need to understand how it's going to be rolled out, how we're going to give people training and access to, collect data on whether the tool is having the impact that we are intending. And we need to have some best practices, some guidelines for how students are going to interact with the tool. So that's all in part of that AI literacy bucket. Really, really important. Clara, talk us through some of the AI governance needed in this scenario.
Yeah, really good question. So AI literacy, importantly, should not be confused with AI governance. And I think in the AI literacy area is really where we see children and staff very actively working with the technology. The AI governance work, to a very large degree, is adult work. It's the work that needs to take place before the AI technology makes it into the classroom, makes it into the offices where staff is working in the school community. And so AI governance is really the foundation. And it begins, of course, with what are our vendor vetting processes. So rather than having ad hoc AI use on campus with individual staff members having individual accounts, the school needs to come together and really understand what kind of technology is coming in. Is it safe? What happens to our data? What servers are they stored on? And where is that server located? Is it in our country or somewhere on the other side of the planet? Also, before AI makes it into the classroom and AI literacy is needed, AI governance would mean that the AI has run through a pilot review process. There may be children involved with that. There may be parents involved with that, and school staff, but a very small group with oversight, protection, and consent that are really testing out whether this is a good technology to bring in for whatever purpose it's being brought in for. Very importantly, also, before tech makes it into the classroom, is really to assess risks. What are the risks of this particular tool? Can it make mistakes? Does it hallucinate, giving false information that it believes to be true? Is it used for grading? In that case, does it grade consistently and fairly? Does it push out biased information? And how do we deal with all of these things? And what is our risk tolerance? Also, very importantly, data privacy compliance review. has changed a lot with the new AI technologies, partly because children's data and staff data is now not just being stored, but also used to train AI models and maybe sold off to other vendors who are training models. So really, really important to assess, why are we collecting data? What kind of data are we collecting? On whom? And where does it go? And what's our tolerance as a school for this? And what is the law that we have to adhere to? Also really important to consider an impact assessment on this technology, especially for high-risk systems. So for example, that could be a system where it's used for grading students and therefore can impact their ability to move up to the next grade, or perhaps even their ability to later on attend higher education. Really important that impact on that grading assessment is understood and that human oversight is put in place so that it's a human being that signs off on the final grading and oversees the fairness and accountability of that tool. And then finally, very important for schools, as part of AI governance, it's very important to really establish a dialogue amongst the different departments, both for sharing information and supporting each other and learning best practice from the different departments that are developing ideas and methodologies, but also to coordinate decision making, especially if there's been an incident, a harm that has happened to either a staff member or a student. And once those things are in place, along with policies, along with training, then comes the AI literacy component. So now we're in the classrooms, now we're in the offices, and that's where we need the AI literacy component. So that's the difference there.
Okay, great. Well, thanks so much for that clarification. I think one of the things that strikes me as we kind of go through that is just AI is a technology, right? But how much people change is involved in that transition and in an implementation that's really going to work for everybody. So definitely something to keep in mind. Should we do one more scenario just to kind of drive that AI literacy versus AI governance piece home?
Absolutely.
Okay. So this one, so deepfakes is something that schools are really navigating, especially with next gen video tools kind of coming to the forefront. But let's say that there's a student who's created a deepfake video of their principal announcing a fake snow day, which is, in some ways a lot more innocuous than some other scenarios. But still, it creates confusion, right? You've got parents calling to the schools. They don't know if they should bring their child or not. Some parents keep their child home. And plans for the school don't yet address AI generated content. So that's sort of the scenario. Let's break that down in terms of AI literacy and AI governance. So in terms of AI literacy, certainly there's some understanding of what a deep fake is. And so, I know we talked about the order last time is governance coming before AI literacy. You need to have enough AI literacy to know where your governance, what governance concerns you need to address and tackle, right? So certainly some understanding of what a deep fake is and what challenges it poses. Some understanding of what acceptable uses of AI generated audio and video are, and really kind of talking through what is acceptable in our community, what's the kind of community that we want to have, and how does video and audio, how do they help us do that, or how do they detract, and really kind of breaking that down and involving all stakeholders in that conversation, not just decision makers. And then really, digital citizenship and making sure that that's inclusive of generative AI. Schools have done a lot of work to build social emotional learning and digital citizenship within their curriculum. Would invite folks to really think about how generative AI changes some of that and how curriculum needs to evolve as well. What about AI?
Yeah, really, really well put. And we have, as you said, many organizations that have created really fantastic AI literacy resources for organizations to use. So we'll flip it over to AI governance again here. Think safeguarding, think culture change, thinking about how our behavior impacts the overall safety in the use of technology. Think law, think regulation, and policy, and in getting all of these things in place. I was just asked earlier today, what is one advice I would give to schools today about deepfakes if I could? And my advice would be, you are facing a reality, especially in video and audio generation now, where you must, as quickly as possible, put together your risk management team and your safeguarding team to address how you as a school are going to deal with deepfake. And that's AI governance work. So you need your policies to be updated. You need to have them include deepfakes, both in images, videos, and voice. What are your school's policies? And those, of course, should align with the regulation that guides your school district. You must put in place incident response protocols. These are incredibly important, and we know that a lot of schools are still missing this component, partly because the tech has moved so quickly. But we're seeing more and more cases of schools that are being hit by deepfake attacks of various kinds. We've seen numbers that are mind-bogglingly high on children saying that they have themselves experienced a deepfake being made of them that has been harmful in some way. We saw a case in the US of a principal that was arrested for having said something very racist on a video, when in fact it was a deepfake video. And we're seeing more and more reporting now that deepfakes are being used for different things, from sexualization to stalking, to humiliating or bullying. So your incident response protocols have to be updated. What you're facing, of course, is that if there is a particular harmful video released in your community, most likely you face a situation that you either have to suspend the student or the staff member who said or did whatever they did on the video, and then you investigate. Or if it's grave enough, you hand it over to authorities and then they investigate. How will you deal with all the speculation, the worry, the fear, and the people that are involved directly in this particular deepfake scenario? And this is really both about safeguarding staff, families, and children. Also, communication protocols are really important to get in place before a deepfake attack happens, mostly because speed really matters in these kind of situations. Getting the information out, the appropriate information out quickly, is really, really important, so that the community don't begin to speculate and take away incorrect information that's not desirable for you to have in your community. Also, AI governance is really about scenario planning. Put your crisis and safeguarding response team together and run a worst case scenario. How will you deal with that? You may actually be able to find families, and perhaps even some of the older children where parents have given consent, take part in this scenario planning. What should be happening here, and how will your school address that? And then finally, calibration. Run real exercises to ensure that you're still up to date with the reality of the technology and how that will work on your campus. And as you know, if you work with safeguarding, that changes over time, because we have new generations of children coming up, and they are using technology in different ways than the generation before them. And all of that is adult work that lays as the foundation under the house of AI literacy, so to speak.
Great. I do want to just, one word. I'm in the US. I know you're in Spain, and the US tends to be sort of maybe more tolerant of, or not less worried about risk, but more innovation focused, we'll say. So I think you could also, I love that you said plan for worst case scenarios. I think you could plan for best case scenarios as well and find points to celebrate or points of like amplification in running a scenario like that. So I think it's really important to do both. And I also think it's really important to underscore that we're talking about planning for the worst in as a proactive measure, not necessarily like to sort of incite fear and things like that in people. I think it's really important that by planning for the worst case scenario, you're being proactive to hopefully mitigate or prevent certain scenarios like that from becoming a reality in your community. And that's what sort of lays the foundation for innovation to thrive. Because if you know people have that foundational safety in place, then people can actually take advantage of the best parts of AI and what it has to offer. So just want to offer that as a potential counterpoint for that as well.
I agree completely. And I think you bring up something incredibly important because it's really, AI governance is really about establishing a sense of trust in the technology. What kind of technology can we use? What kind of technology is not appropriate for the school environment? And that sense of protection and prevention is really imperative to develop the trust that's needed to innovate, to come up with new ideas, and to find exciting new ways to use AI technology in the educational environment, where also deepfake may be useful. We have yet to see some cases because this is relatively new technology, but theoretically there may be cases where deepfakes could be productive in education and perhaps in some of the creative fields, all left to be discovered and discussed. But as you say, trust must be put in place first before the community will be safe in using the technologies and scaling the use of technology. So fantastic point to bring in. Thanks for that.
Thanks, Clara. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground, but I think our main takeaway is that we need both. We need both AI literacy and AI governance. We absolutely need to establish, foundational understanding for folks at the individual level, and we absolutely need to invest the time, energy, and resources to create the policies and structures and calibration that is needed to ensure that you have systems in place to ensure that AI is deployed with both responsibly and safely.